What is your case worth? It's worth everything you've lost. If you're earning X and you were probably going to earn Y, and this is how many years you have left, this is a ballpark figure of what your income loss is worth. But then we also have to look at your medical bills and your care costs. If you or someone you love has suffered a spinal cord injury, you may have been told what that case may be worth. But oftentimes, people not informed could leave hundreds of thousands of dollars behind. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what spinal cord injury victims are entitled to, and we're going to cover some of the things that other lawyers may not tell you. I'm Andrew Iacobelli. I'm a personal injury lawyer with Iacobelli Law Firm. I've got licenses and practice in multiple jurisdictions, including Florida, Ontario, Texas, and Michigan. Before I became a plaintiff's lawyer representing injured people, I worked exclusively for insurance companies and large corporations defending cases brought by injured people, often multi-million-dollar cases defending corporations, individuals, and hospitals and doctors. We've been successful in recovering millions of dollars on behalf of injured people. I'm pleased to be a lifetime member of the $1 Million Advocates Forum and many other organizations, including the American Association for Justice, Florida Justice Association, etc. The purpose of this is really to try to share information to help you maximize your recovery if you or a family member has been seriously injured. We realize that if you or a family member has sustained a spinal cord injury, a severe spinal cord injury, it's a life-changing event. It's a traumatic event, not just for the individual, but also for the friends and family of the victim. When we talk about money, I want to be clear that we're not trying to minimize or ignore all of the other impacts of a spinal cord injury and what the family and the victim are going through. However, money, from the point of view of a personal injury attorney, and the family, in fact, is an essential part of helping that person focus on their recovery, focus on their health, giving them the resources and the peace of mind, not just for the immediate losses and the immediate financial disruption, but more importantly, as we'll explore this, you'll see the big part of the focus is on peace of mind for the future and really securing the resources to give the victim and the loved ones peace of mind for their future. First off, let's talk about what a catastrophic spinal cord injury actually is. A lot of people think about spine injuries, but there are varying degrees of spine injuries in terms of severity and the ultimate outcome of function. So we're talking about generally anywhere from the most severe spinal cord injury resulting in paralysis. Of course, that depends on the level of injury. That could be paralysis of the upper extremities and lower extremities, sometimes lower extremities with function still remaining in the upper extremities, sometimes incomplete paralysis, sometimes paralysis affecting bowel or bladder function. So there are varying degrees of spinal cord injuries. The information needed to maximize the value of those cases remains largely the same, and that's what we're going to cover today. So we talked a moment ago about various degrees or classifications of spinal cord injury. The classification does have an impact on the value, but it's not the classification alone. It's all of the factors that are unique to the individual. So we would look at everybody's case individually and their pre-accident profile, their life, what they did, what they expected to do in all domains, pretty well all domains of their life, from recreation, hobbies, enjoyment of life, relationships, what were they responsible for at the home, meal preparation, vacuuming, laundry. It goes into every facet of a person's life to tell the story and make sure that we are capturing and accounting for all of the losses to this particular individual, whether it's caring for an elderly parent, caring for dependent children, the person's ability to return to work, to what extent can they work, if any. Very often people with a severe spinal cord injury are completely disabled from returning to their previous occupation, and largely from returning to any occupation. So those are all of the things that have to be assessed. Now, the degree of the impairment, the category of the impairment will impact all of that. A few exceptions, but there are some spinal cord injuries to a degree where the person does have an opportunity to return to work and return to function, but that takes resources. That takes healthcare, that takes support in terms of equipment, aids, people. And so all of that to try to restore the individual to the best they could possibly be, despite the fact that they have a very devastating injury. So let's look at what we would do as a team as lawyers, paralegals, and medical personnel, from case managers to occupational therapists, to try to develop and review each and every facet of the individual's life to capture the resources or the money. It all boils down to money, to be able to get the resources the person needs to make up for what they can no longer do, cover all of their expenses, but also try to give them or restore them to the best possible quality of life given the current circumstances. And by the way, you're going to have a big role in this as well, because your lawyer's going to want to know as much about you as possible. Speak to your friends, speak to your employers, speak to your relatives, and yourself, obviously, to try to achieve the best possible quality of life for you. So you'll also have a big role in this. But let's cover off some of the things that we would typically look at. Medical bills, healthcare costs. Medical bills in terms of actual treatment, surgery, immediate hospital care, rehabilitation care. So the bills that have already been incurred. In addition to that, we need to look at what kind of healthcare is available to give you the best possible chance of making the best recovery. We're going to look at medical in terms of medical doctors, but then all kinds of therapists, and that can involve occupational therapists, rehab support workers, social workers, psychologists and counselors, experts on home modifications and adaptability. The list goes on and on and on. There are a lot of resources out there that people often aren't aware of. And so part of our job is to educate our clients on the resources that are available to them in terms of professionals, community-based services, to try to maximize their ability to make a recovery, particularly in that immediate acute phase. The more that's available to you, the better your chances are to reduce the chances of further decline. But all of those resources obviously cost money. And so we have to factor in those costs and seek and obtain funding for it. That could come from the at-fault party. Depending on the jurisdiction, that could come from your own insurance policies, your own healthcare coverage, your own auto insurance coverage, government resources, community resources. So we also look at where is the funding, okay? And that's a discussion we'll have with you and your family. What are the resources available? How do we pay for it? But then we also look at the future healthcare. We talked about modifications to homes, modifications to vehicles. There are also modifications to other things. Your workspace, if there's a possibility of returning to work. All of that has to be factored into as well. So not just for now, but also depending on your age, your life expectancy, what will all of that cost over your lifetime? Okay, so that's part of what we would consider care costs. And we would look at the current and the future care costs and advance those numbers on your behalf to get you the money you need to have the peace of mind that you have the money available should those care costs become necessary in the future. Another important piece, depending on the person's individual profile, will be their economic income loss. To the extent that the severe catastrophic injury has impaired your ability to return to work or made you unable to work completely, we'll look at that. Okay, but it's not just what you were earning at the time of the accident, it's what could you have earned over your working life, over your lifetime. And so there's a trajectory. So oftentimes people's wages go up, opportunities change, there's opportunities for advancement. So we don't just look at what you were earning, but more importantly, we look at what you could have earned over your lifetime. And fortunately, we have access to some of the best experts in the field, whether it's forensic accountants, economists, vocational expert, employment experts, to look at that and put together a very detailed, specific analysis tailored to you and your life to help us prove those losses so that we can claim that against, most of the time, against the at-fault party. Other economic losses could include things like care costs, not just for yourself, but what is the impact on your dependents? Maybe it's elderly parents, maybe it's children, maybe it's others. Are there other losses now that because you're not available to perform those services, that it's an expense, it's an additional expense to your family, to yourself, to make up for that lost service? Housekeeping, home maintenance, attendance at appointments, all of that costs real dollars over your lifetime. We take that for granted. Somebody needs something or you need to go somewhere, you can get there easily. But after a serious catastrophic spinal cord injury, that has to be accounted for. Very often you can't just get in the car and go somewhere anymore. And so we have to account for all of that as well. Every case is different, as I mentioned, so we would look at your particular circumstances. You would think about it too. Knowing this, having knowledge that you can claim for your economic losses empowers you. So think about it. Share with your lawyer. What else? What else did you do that now you're not able to perform and it's going to cost money to restore that service, restore that activity? In addition to economic losses, a catastrophic spinal cord injury obviously results in profound loss of enjoyment of life, profound change to your life, to your family's life. Some people think of that as pain and suffering, but it goes much beyond pain and suffering. The nature of that injury changes relationships with friends, with families, the types of recreational activities you can do, the way you feel on a daily basis. We will be there with you to learn about that and tell that story on your behalf so that you're fairly compensated for the loss. Non-economic losses, if it goes to a jury, are decided by the jury, as are the other losses. But the non-economic losses are what I would say really dependent largely on the community, because it's a community evaluation. Your community assesses. There is information, so we have access to the information based on where your case would proceed and what juries have done or are likely to do in cases similar to yours. So there's data available for that. But again, it's telling the story. So telling a compelling story, having the supporting witnesses to help us share your story. Sometimes day in the life videos can go a very long way. We use those at mediations and settlement conferences or pretrial conferences to really show the insurance company that, hey, look, this is what the community will see. They're going to see this day in the life video. They're going to hear from the loved ones. They're going to hear from the coworkers. They're going to hear from the friends. And they're going to award a significant amount of money for the loss of enjoyment of life. We can do that in advance. And most of the time we're successful, and serious cases like this ultimately are resolved. Hiring a lawyer after a catastrophic spinal cord injury, there's no question. It's a big decision. And there are lawyers lining up, as you know, to take on your case. There are probably people in the hospital right now suggesting lawyers to you. There are friends suggesting lawyers to you. There are commercials on TV. There are billboards suggesting lawyers to you. And all of them will take your case and ask you to pay nothing up front. All of them. Nobody's going to ask you to pay anything up front. So it's a really big decision, and you're in control. Don't forget that. You're absolutely in control. It doesn't matter what the person at the hospital is telling you, what the social worker is suggesting, what maybe the doctor is suggesting. They don't know. They haven't been through a case like this. Make an informed decision. This is a team that you have to work with probably for years. Unfortunately, a case like this takes time, it takes effort, it takes attention to detail, it takes trust, frankly. It takes a lot of trust. It's more than what someone is telling you. Believe me, it is much more than that. So a lot of lawyers can hire the experts and do the analysis, but is the team compassionate? Do they have your interest first? Are they getting on top of your case immediately, moving with efficiency and speed, but also not putting settling and getting a paycheck ahead of spending the money, the time, the effort to maximize your value? Because your case is worth probably a lot of money automatically. And so a lot of firms will see that as a quick paycheck and see it as a quick opportunity to get a case, put in very little time and effort, and settle it and get paid. But that's not going to secure your future. So make sure you meet with the lawyers and find out what their plan is. The nature of the injury is such that it is worth a lot of money. Anybody can tell you that. What I would caution is against any lawyer that gives you a number right off the bat. They tell you your case is worth $1 million or your case is worth $5 million or whatever it might be. They're just guessing. They don't know. They haven't seen your tax returns. They haven't sent it to a forensic accountant. They haven't hired an economist. They haven't had an OT or physiatrist do a life care plan for you. So they can't know. It's impossible for them to know with any degree of certainty or credibility what the value of those economic losses are. To me, that's at least a yellow flag, maybe even a red flag. If a lawyer comes in and tries to hook you with dollars, money signs, because you're vulnerable right now, you're scared, you're worried about your income loss, you're worried about your care costs, you're worried about your bills. Any lawyer that does this on a regular basis knows it takes time. You have to get the documents. You have to do the investigation. You have to find out where you live, the size of your house, the care costs, the type of equipment you need, the modifications to your home that may be required. I don't know any lawyer that would know all of those numbers and also be able to present value those numbers and apply the rules in terms of what you get today and what the interest earned on it is and whether it's structured or it's a payout directly. No lawyer can do that. And if they tell you they can, get a second opinion. With that, you want to know how much your case is worth. What I hope we've done is educate you to think about all of the things you can claim for. So what is your case worth? It's worth everything you've lost. If I were sitting down with you, I could go through some of those with you and say, look, if you're earning X and you were probably going to earn Y, and this is how many years you have left, this is a ballpark figure of what your income loss is worth. But then we also have to look at your medical bills and your care costs, your housekeeping expenses, your home modifications, your vehicle modifications, support and services, including specialized equipment, people that will be required to support you over your lifetime outside of your family, because the insurance company or the defendant doesn't get credit for the free services of your family. We have to account for that. So what if you had to go and hire someone to do these things? Non-economic loss like pain and suffering or loss of enjoyment of life is jurisdiction specific. So there are some places in the world that have caps. There are some types of cases that have caps. While we can say it's worth a lot of money, and it is, I would have to sit down with the client and understand, okay, where is this case pending? What type of case is it? What law applies to it, if any, that could possibly impact the value of the non-economic losses? What community would ultimately decide this? And how have similar cases been decided in that particular community? I would love to share that with you here, but it's just too broad of a question to say that, hey, a spinal cord injury is worth X for pain and suffering. Our goal would be to get you the absolute most, to maximize the value, whatever that value may be in your particular circumstance. There are places where pain and suffering awards are capped. In Canada, they're capped. Most US jurisdictions, they're not, but with exceptions. In medical malpractice, often capped, depending on who the defendant is. Whether a government entity is involved as a defendant could be capped. So there are all these pressures that have come into play through what the government and insurance companies like to label as tort reform, there are all these pressures that come in to try to limit what a person can recover for pain and suffering. So we'd have to look at your specific case, who the target defendants are, in what jurisdiction it's in, to really get a fulsome and clear view of what caps may apply and what the value of your pain and suffering could be. Also, another reason why we take such a detailed approach, identifying your losses, calculating your losses, presenting the evidence to support those claims and losses. A lot of this goes back probably to my experience as a insurance defense lawyer, defending the insurance companies, defending the hospitals, defending the government entities and the corporations. I take that knowledge because I've learned what they look for, how they evaluate cases, what we need to do to unlock the vault. I use this analogy a lot with clients. It doesn't matter how nice you are. It doesn't matter how hurt you are in and of itself. That doesn't really matter, because the adjuster, the person we're negotiating, the representative of the bank or the insurance company, so to say, that representative can't just walk into the vault and take the money and give it to you, right? So I use this analogy. I say, imagine you were in need of money and you walked into the bank. The bank has more money than, and that's what they have, is money. You walked into the bank and you said, hey, I need some money. Go in the vault and get it for me. Could they do that? Even if they agreed you needed the money, even if they understood you probably were a client of the bank and owned the money or were entitled to it, there are certain boxes they need to check. So you want to withdraw money from the bank? The teller will say, well, let me see your bank card. What's your PIN number? Do you have ID? Let me check your signature against the signature card, etc., whatever it might be. Check, check, check. All right, walk into the vault, take the money, hand it to you. It's very similar in a personal injury case. The adjuster, the representative of the insurance company, is like the teller at the bank. We need to check the boxes. And the more of those boxes we can check, they're claiming this for income loss, but they also have an expert. They also have returns. They also have vocational opinions. They also have this. Check, 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 check. It lines up. Entitled to that money. That's what we're trying to do. We're always trying to check the boxes so that the insurance company can and will ultimately realize that you're entitled to the money in the vault. And the more boxes we can check, the more they're going to pull out of the vault. I hope that helps explain some of the reason why we go through the details and the nuances that we do to get you the maximum recovery. And people might say, look, it's a terrible accident. It's a terrible injury. It should be obvious to the insurance company. They should pay me millions of dollars. And I agree with you. It should. It should. And your case is worth millions of dollars. I often tell clients that. I agree with you. We have to check these boxes. So we're going to get the expert report. And we're going to get this report and that report. And in the end, I promise you, it's going to amount to more money than you're going to get if you just ask them to pay you. So what are the mistakes you can make that will impact how much money you get or recover if you're the victim of a catastrophic injury like a spinal cord injury? The biggest glaring mistake is resolving or trying to resolve the claim without going through the steps and actually proving and identifying the full value of the claim. Some of this will depend on insurance limits. If the insurance limits aren't there, there's only so much you can do. And that's what we would look at as well. So one mistake is making decisions without being fully informed. Do you know what the insurance limits are? Do you know what all of the resources are? Do you know where all of the potential opportunities for recovery lie? Who are all the possible defendants? Where are all the possible insurance policies? So that's number one. Making the mistake of accepting money early, signing a release, and leaving sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes in millions, in fact, on the table. Giving statements to insurance companies or the representatives when you're not represented by counsel. That's a huge mistake. Insurance companies mobilize quickly. Okay, they know if there's a serious injury, they know. They mobilize. They investigate. They start setting up defenses. They take statements. You need a team doing the same thing for you. If they're coming to you to take a statement, even if it's your own insurance company, if they're coming to you to take a statement, it's not about you. It's always about money. And for an insurance company, the emphasis is on less money. How do you balance the scales? You need someone on your side, pulling back, fighting back. Otherwise, they're going to do what they need to do to minimize what they pay you. It doesn't mean they won't pay you. They probably will in a serious case, but they will minimize what they pay you. Lawyer up and make sure you're represented. Other mistakes in serious catastrophic injury claims: picking a lawyer when you're not informed. You're vulnerable, you're in the hospital, somebody from the hospital suggests a lawyer, the lawyer comes to the hospital side and you hire them. You haven't made an informed decision. Ask yourself, why are they suggesting this lawyer? Because they're trying to be nice to you? Do your own investigation. Interview multiple lawyers if you need to. If you're not 100% sure, interview, get a second opinion. That's a big mistake, I would say. Hiring a lawyer too quickly, hiring a lawyer when you're not informed. Make an informed decision. Don't wait too long. You do want to start consulting with a lawyer. Be aware there are deadlines, and you want to start the process going as well, because as we mentioned a moment ago, the insurance company mobilizes. So have a team on your side that's also doing what's appropriate to help you establish your claim. The other important thing is don't rely on the insurance company to do what's best for you. So what do I mean by that? You've been discharged from the hospital and the insurance company says, we're going to pay for this and we're going to get you assessed by this person and we're going to hook you up with that service. To me, that is letting the fox in the hen house. If the adjuster or the insurance company is choosing your treatment team, yellow flag, red flag, alarms should go off. Get the opinion of a lawyer. Find out, is that the treatment team I want? Is that treatment team have my best interest at heart? And I'm not talking about MDs in the hospital. I'm talking about all the other services and support that comes after. When you're out of the hospital, coming to your home. If the insurance company is suggesting or making arrangements for those people, get a lawyer, find out, are those the best people for you? Or are they ultimately the best people for the insurance company? Will their notes and records help the insurance company? This is a big topic, and I tried my best to go into some detail. You probably have many, many more questions. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. Our phones are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Contact us on our website also and request a consultation. We're happy to talk to you. Our contact details are listed below. We appreciate you.